We are doing celebrity estates, and today we're going to talk about Princess Diana. We're just referencing this book, Trials and Errors, which is a great book if you love this estate planning stuff like we do. So yeah, good. I don't know. Why don't you go ahead, Christina?
Well, as we know, she died tragically, unexpectedly, and she did have, she took care of to make sure she had a will in place, which is wonderful. The issue with her, though, is that her mom and sister came into into her home, started to remove her possessions, and they were nominated as her executor. And her butler panicked when he saw all of her possessions being taken from her home. And as the story has it, he started to take some things to his home. They noticed, they got upset. And then there was a trial, which somehow it all kind of disappeared. Then Queen Elizabeth said, "Oh no, I remember the butler saying to me he was keeping them for safekeeping." So there's some juiciness going on there as to what happened. But amongst one of the things during trial that the butler presented was something called Letter of Wishes that was written by Diana. And in it, she explained that she wanted all of her personal chattels to be distributed between her sons and her godchildren. And she had 17 godchildren. And of course, her mom and sister did not honor her wishes of her letter, her letter of wishes, her intent. And instead, what they did was they gave little trinkets of no monetary value, to each of the godchildren. And the book goes on to explain that she had so much personal chattel that each godchild would have received 100,000 pounds worth of personal chattel. So this is one of my favorites, and I say that because I can't count how many times I draft an estate plan, whether it's a trust or a will, and I have clients come in and they're ready to sign, and my famous words are, "Okay, confirming everything, is in accordance with your wishes." Yes. And then they say to me, "But, I want my dear friend Amy to get, the magnet on my refrigerator." And I say, "Well, it's not in any of your documents." "Yeah, it's okay, but my son John knows that the special magnet on my refrigerator is going to my dear friend." And I start my spiel, saying that by law, especially in New York, the executor or trustee has no legal obligation to give that that magnet to the friend. And so if there are anything that you want, any specific bequest, any specific items that you want to leave to a friend, a loved one, a charity, the corner deli, guy, it has to be in your documents. That is so, so, so important. And even though most of the times it's, the children, even, or siblings or family members who's your proposed executor, doesn't mean that they're going to do what you wanted, what you intended when you're not here, and you can no longer stick up for that. So here in Princess Diana's, case, she wrote it the same day, which I failed to mention. So her letter of wishes was written the same day her will was signed. So all she really had to do was give that to her attorney to incorporate those wishes into her will. And then it would have been able to carry out.
I think she did it the day after, and what I suspect is what happens is the attorney or whoever drafted it for her must have said, "Here, take this, and you could fill it out when you go home," or something, which makes sense because you don't always think of all these little things that you want to give to people. So it might be like an afterthought, like Christina's perfect example. Someone's coming in the day of, and they're like, "Oh, I just remembered something." So, yeah, I mean, it seems the trends that we are seeing is the judges say, if you're going to take the time to write a will, then you need to include everything in that will. Because if you don't include it in the will, we can't really confirm that this later dated document, or even a document on the same day that's drafted separately, is actually what you wanted. And if you wanted it, it should have gone in your will.
Yep.
So it's a tough one because, it's expensive to do estate planning, right? You've got to go back to an attorney, you've got to schedule it, you've got to plan it. But obviously it's worth it because in this case, there was a huge loss of value to all of her godchildren because it wasn't done right.
Right.
Yeah, and so chattel is an old English word, by the way, for personal property. We still use that in the United States, by the way, in law, but nobody uses it in practice. Hopefully, if you are thinking of making a list of individual items that you want transferred, you either make sure that you're giving that list to somebody you absolutely trust, or you have it added into your estate planning documents.
Right. A lot of
Anything
times
else on that?
too, I'll say to clients, depending on what it is, what personal properties that they want to give away, I'll say, like, give it away now. So if I have, a dad who wants to make sure that, his son gets his watch that was passed down to him, I'll say, well, if you're not using it and you don't use it and it's just sitting in your jewelry box, give it to your son now. So he has it. So we don't have to worry about putting it, explicitly in the will or the trust. And the same thing, for the mother, if you have, oh, my mother's ruby ring that I want to leave to my only daughter. I have five sons and one daughter. Give it to her now. Not only, doing it now, you don't have to worry about it in legal documents, but also I'm sure your child or the beneficiary who's receiving it, it's like an honor to get it now and not wait for that person to be deceased. But, again, I can't express the importance of making sure that everything is always written down. And, Leslie, as you know, and we'll get into it with the next one too, no matter how close a family is, and no matter how many times parents say to me, oh, my kids get along so well, when they're not here and money and goods and sentimental value is involved, people fight. So to not have that fight, to make your kids stay close and be happy, just get it in the document. Just say, Joe gets this and Susan gets that and Tiffany gets this, and that's that. Mom and dad made the decision and there's no fighting.
So we will see you next month with a new celebrity estate story. And thank you for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.